Hey guys, this is Comic Uno and Comic Frontline, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 137, and that's show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. And let's get started. We have 21 books, so I go worst pick of the week to best pick of the week, and let's get started. What was worst pick of the week? Number 21 was Earth 2 Society issue 10. No shocker there. I'm still picking up this series. I'm reading it digitally, but I'm still picking it up because I've been reading Earth 2 since issue 1, and I don't really want to drop it, especially just seeing how it goes with DC Rebirth. But still not liking it. It's, the artwork I still think is a little bit too slender. The background could be a lot better. It's just kind of random colors in the background of the artwork. So that could be better. And also the story is just kind of boring. It just hasn't progressed that much as I want to for the series. So I give Earth 2 Society issue 10 2 stars. Still not very impressed with the series, and that's number 21. Moving on to number 20, another very disappointing book this week, and that was The Amazing Spider-Man issue 9. So with The Amazing Spider-Man, it's going back into the Zodiac story, which I really could care less about. And it's Spider-Man in space. He falls from space. He fights one of the Zodiacs, Scorpio, and that's what's going on. And I feel like with this title or with this new volume, it hasn't really felt like a Spider-Man book in a while. And some of the earlier issues did, but now it's going into like, here's someone dressed up as Spider-Man doing these things. It just feels off for me. So I gave Amazing Spider-Man issue 9 2 stars. I was just pretty bored with this issue, and I'm hoping the arc will get better, but I haven't been too impressed with the Zodiac stuff. But The Amazing Spider-Man issue 9 gets 2 stars, and that's number 20. Moving on to number 19, which is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. issue 3. Now this book actually has a big shocker in the issue, but I felt like it was out of place to shocker. And spoiler alert if you haven't read it, but the shocker is that it looks like Wolverine's back. He's like, yeah, you know, I thought you were supposed to be dead. And he said, wouldn't have been the first time that people thought I was dead. So there's Wolverine. I guess that's what's going to play with all new X-Men. I mean, all new Wolverine coming up. Maybe he comes back. We don't know how, but sure. Felt pretty random to me. And also the artwork is just really plain, and that drags me out of it. I kind of wish there was more detail to the art. And then the story is okay. It's about the whole the standoff storyline going on with Pleasant Hill, and learning a little bit more about Coulson's girlfriend, which I guess is, or ex-girlfriend, which was interesting. But still, I don't know, I still want a little bit more from it. You get to see Rick Jones if you like that character. The New Avengers make a little bit of an appearance in the end. But I think the artwork is what really takes me away. I'm probably going to switch digitally to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Still haven't really had that hook from this series yet. And still Fitz feels very out of character from the beginning of this issue. I'm like, that's not Fitz. It's kind of out of character. And I think that's also something I haven't been enjoying, is that all the other characters that we love from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. hasn't really had a time to shine or really show their character personalities. It's very much a Coulson story. So Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. issue 3 gets 2.5 stars, and I'll be switching digitally to this, and we'll see how long it lasts on my pull. So that was number 19. Moving on to number 18, which is Heroes Godsend issue 1, which I did think was a bit of an improvement from the original miniseries, or I don't even remember what it was called, just Heroes something. Heroes Vengeance, I think it was called. I didn't love that miniseries. I actually dropped it. Here with Heroes Godsend, it's still not, you know, above the moon, you have to pick this up, over the moon type thing. It was okay. You learn a little bit more about Farah, the Invisible Girl. You actually do learn a lot more about her here. I wouldn't say you care for her, but you learn more about her backstory, which was good, because in the show you never got that. And, you know, the backstory was okay, like I said. It was interesting. Gave me enough to pick up the next issue. Probably not printed, probably digitally. But with the artwork, I think that's what dragged me out of this, too. It just could have been more detailed. The coloring could have been less simple. So I think the artwork could have been better. But I like the visibility. I thought they did that pretty well going into that. Here, they did the visibility pretty well. Kind of pops out. So Heroes Godsend issue 1 gets 2.5 stars. That was number 18. Now we're moving on to number 17, which is Batman Superman, issue 30. Book, I'm disappointed seeing this low, because I was really looking forward to Tom Taylor's version of Batman Superman. And there's some interesting, like, little scenes, I would say. Like, Superman pretending to be Batman was kind of cool in this issue. And, there's definitely a cool ending with the sun going down, because this guy, all he's seen was the sun. So I thought that was an interesting ending. And also Batman, pretty much hacking into Green Lantern's ring. Those are cool moments. But the reason it's lower is because the artwork I thought could have been a little better. I'm not a big fan of this thin line style artwork. Coloring is good, but wasn't a huge fan of the artwork. Just giving more example of that. Also, the actual storyline I wasn't so interested in. It was a very fast read. And I just didn't really care about the Sun Guy or any of the villains they were trying to defeat and them being in space. So Batman Superman issue 30, I gave 2.5 stars. There's definitely some good moments in there, some good like little panels, but I kind of wish the story was a bit more interesting and the art a bit more, I just didn't like the style of artwork. So Batman Superman issue 30 gets 2.5 stars. So moving on to number, I think we're up to 16 now. We are, number 16 is Detective Comics, issue 50. And with the story, I like the idea of the story. I like that it's actually Jim Gordon doing detective work. That's something I missed in the actual Batman run, and we haven't seen Commissioner Gordon do. I thought that was pretty interesting. But the actual story, the actual mystery, I thought could have been a little better. And the ending was just like, it was okay. But it was cool to see Jim Gordon in playing Batman. I feel like really playing Batman. And then half of the issue is all made up of just splash pages and some random dialogue. So I think that they could have filled up the pages a little bit better here. Maybe a secondary story would have been better, like a longer one. Just want to show you how many pages there are of splash pages here. So here are all the splash pages in the end of the issue. Still going, turning more. So yeah, it's a lot of pages that they filled up to make it $4.99. So that's why it's definitely lower. I don't know if this book was really worth $4.99, but I still like the arc overall and what they try to achieve with this arc. So Detective Comics issue 50 gets 3 stars. That's number 16. Moving on to number 15, which is Jupiter's Circle Volume 2, issue 4, which is, I don't ever think needed a Volume 2. I'd rather have gone Jupiter Legacy. I liked Jupiter Circle Volume 1. It was cool to kind of get those lost episodes. But here, I don't know if we necessarily needed this story. It still feels like lost episodes. And also something I've really seen with this book is I don't really care about each character. They kind of seem like random heroes dressed up. I don't really know their names that well because they haven't made me care about these characters that much. And I know they tried throughout the series, but it didn't work so much for me. But the artwork is good. I do like the bright artwork. I think it works pretty well. There is this one scene, though, where someone's neck was really off. Hopefully I can find it. Is when one of the heroes was chained up. Let's see. It's towards the beginning. If I can't find it, oh well. But there is a scene where her neck looks really weird. I can't find it. But yeah, the issue, well, this series in general, I don't know if we needed a Volume 2, and that's why feel like it's a bit lackluster. I just want to get to Jupiter's Legacy. That's the series I think has the most meat to it, even though I do really like the artwork for the series. So Jupiter's Circle Volume 2, issue 4 gets 3 stars. Alright, so now we're moving on to number 14, I think we're up to. We are up to number 14, and that is... And one of them fell. Hold on, guys. Alright. We have Starfire, issue 10. Yes, so Starfire issue 10 is number 14. And I'm unhappy that this is so low, but it's mostly the artwork. I think the coloring really collides with each other. And I think that could have been a little better. I don't really love the art style that they changed to. So it feels very crowded, the book. So I like the more detailed artwork of the cover art and what we've been getting for Starfire for like the past 8 issues. So here also, the story was okay. It's them going to Terra's home planet and having to defeat these insects. I love Stella in this issue though. She's like, all right, you know, I took the day off, but I'll help. And she gets her gun, or a gun, and she tries helping out. And that's the issue. It's just kind of more of an action issue, trying to defeat these enemies, and that's pretty much it. So it's cool to see Terra's culture. That was interesting, but still like that. I was really looking forward to this arc too, but still like the other stories a little bit more here. But I did like that Slinky was in this issue. The pet was pretty hilarious. And Soul Story was a lot of fun. So Starfire issue 10 gets 3 stars. Bit disappointed, but we do have 2 more issues left to see how they end Starfire, which has overall been a good series so far. Alright, so moving on to number 13, which is Van Helsing Vs Dracula, issue 5, which is the last issue of this miniseries, which I felt has been a little mediocre, and I think that's mostly because of the delays, and also I'm just not a big Van Helsing fan. I've just never been able to get into her character as much as I wanted to. But the artwork is gorgeous for this book. I like the action for the issue, but overall, I felt a little underwhelmed with the book, the ending of it, and I think it's mostly because I'm not a huge Van Helsing fan, like I stated, and also the delays. This book was really delayed, I felt. It's been a while since I felt like I've read issue 4. So Van Helsing vs. Dracula, issue 5, gets 3 stars. Alright, now we're moving on to number 12, which is Disney Princess, issue 1. Now, there's a funny story behind this because I didn't even know this book existed until Frontline Live. Brandt mentioned that Lisa was getting the book, and I was like, Disney Princess, and then I looked at the cover, I'm like, Ariel, I'm gonna totally get this. So I did, and it was a fun book, but it's very much about short stories, and they kind of collided each other, because there's one short story where it'll be like Ariel telling a story, and then we'll randomly go into Belle's story. So it's very much like comic strips, and actually is like lays out like a newspaper. So if you like those type of stories, you're gonna like this. There's some funny panels. There's one. There's actually the one I showed you about. Oh no, it wasn't the one I showed you. But there is a funny Belle little strip where Belle finishes reading a book and she's crying her eyes out. And B said, "Oh, was it a sad ending?" And she's like, "No, I'm so happy, but it's over." And I thought it was kind of a cool little strip for book lovers. I thought that was interesting. And the artwork, I kind of like the chibi style. It's all the same, and it's fun. And I think if you have, you know, a kid that you would like to read this to, it's a very nice, kid-friendly book, and that's something I enjoyed. But as adult reading this book, I know I had fun because I'm a huge Disney fan, but at the same time, I think the strips kind of collided each other. I wanted more of a flow towards the book. It felt like a lot of random stories in one. But I might pick up issue 2 to see where it goes. It's only $2.99, so it's a really cheap price for what you're getting. And of course, I enjoyed the Ariel stories. I thought those were fun. And it was interesting to see that some of the stories were like before their movies, some of them were after, some were in between. So I like that it was all different timelines towards their actual movies. So Disney Princess issue 1 gets 3 stars. It wasn't a bad book, but I think could have been organized a little bit better. Alright, so I think we're up to number 11 now. We are. Number 11 is a book that was actually in my top 5 last time, and that was King's Road, issue 2. The reason this is a little lower is because this is actually almost the end of the series. It's only a 3-issue miniseries, and I didn't feel like issue 2 progressed enough story that the next issue is going to be the last issue. It's these ghouls, or these monsters, going into a mall, and them fighting these monsters, and then learning that the aunt obviously betrayed the family, and then realizing, oh no, I shouldn't have betrayed the family. And that's the issue. I kind of wanted more with the kids because they were really interesting in the first issue, and I thought this would be more of their story, but I just thought the pacing could have been a lot better for this book. But still really enjoy the artwork. I like the tone of the book, and I like that it's reality meeting this fantasy world, which, you know, we've seen a billion times, but I think it works for King's Road. And hopefully issue 3 can redeem this issue and kind of redeem the overall story, because I really liked issue 1, but was a little disappointed with issue 2. So King's Road issue 2 gets 3.5 stars, and that is number 11. Now we're moving on to number 10, which is Legends of Wonder Woman, issue 3. I like this book. It's not one of my favorite series. I know a lot of people loving this book, but that's mostly because I'm not a huge Wonder Woman fan. But I think the artwork has improved a lot, mostly because she has become older, and I think the artwork has fit Wonder Woman's older persona than her younger persona, or younger story. And this issue is very much, the story we really know about Wonder Woman, that how she left the outside world, how she started meeting Steve, and it's told in an interesting way. Now, the book is a bit wordy, I'll say that, as it takes a while to get through, and I don't know if it necessarily needs to be that wordy, but Legends of Wonder Woman issue 3, it's getting better and better each issue, and I think I'm going to be really interested to see Wonder Woman adjust to the new world, or our world. I'm excited to see how this book does that. So Legends of Wonder Woman gets 3.5 stars, and that is number 10, I'm pretty sure. Yes, so now we're going on to number 9, which is Batman and Robin Eternal, issue 23, which has some interesting characters here, some of my favorites. We have spoiler, Batgirl makes an appearance in this issue also. Batgirl doesn't really do much. She's just kind of there to stand around. But spoiler, I thought, had a really interesting scene with Scarecrow, where he tries to, bring fear out of her. And she's like, yeah, that's not going to really work out. And she's, like, practicing her ninja moves. And that was totally Stephanie. So I thought she was really in character there. The rest of the story, I think there are good character moments between like, Dick and, like I said, Stephanie. But the story could have moved a little faster. I feel like I say that a lot with Batman and Robin Eternal, because it is a weekly series, and the cliffhanger was so blah, right? He goes on a snowmobile to, like, work on his own, Dick Grayson. So, like I said, story didn't really progress that much, but the artwork is not too bad, and there were some interesting character moments and some interesting characters that joined the story. So I gave this 3.5 stars, and that's number 9. Alright, now we're moving on to number 8, which is The Mighty Thor, issue 5. And with this book, I was a little disappointed that Jane wasn't in the book as much as I expected her to be. I thought it was going to be more of an Odin versus Thor issue, and that's only like 1/3 of the issue. But there are some interesting, shocking moments, like Thor, or Odin's son's mother getting stabbed by Loki. It's like, yeah, we've seen that a billion times, but I expected it and didn't expect it at the same time. We actually see Odin's son where he's at. He's crying for his mother pretty much in the end. And we'll see, I'm guessing, where his story's been in the next issue. And which I'm like, I'm not a big Odin's son fan, not a big fan of that version of Thor, even though he's the original Thor. I'm liking this more human Thor with Jane Foster. But yeah, artwork is gorgeous for this book. That's why it's a bit higher. But the story, I think, could have been a little bit evened out a little better. But it was still an interesting story with a good fight between Odin and Thor, and then a good cliffhanger finding out, oh wait, we're going to see Odin's son. So The Mighty Thor, issue 5, gets 3.5 stars. Now we're moving on to number 7, which is AllNew Wolverine, issue 6, which is the end of this clone arc, The Four Sisters. And here we get to see, Wolverine defeat the genetic lab, which was, pretty sure it's, let me get the name, Alchemax. And it's Laura has a cool trick where she pretends being one of her clones, so that was kind of a cool, shocking moment. I was like, oh, it was Laura, that's cool. And then we also learn a little bit more about these clones. Like Gabby I really liked, because she has an opportunity to kill one of the people that pretty much tortured her, and she's like, because of Laura, I'm not going to kill you. And we find out that she actually has one of the bone claws, which that was the first time that was ever revealed. Let me see if I can get a picture of that. Here it is. So I thought that was cool. Hopefully we'll learn more about Gabby in those future stories, because she is going to be part of the story. The other one probably won't. She might be a villain of the story after reading this issue. But yeah, so the next issue, it might be, since I was talking about that with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., might be Wolverine coming back. We'll see. But yeah, I thought it was a good story. I still don't think that AllNew Wolverine has impressed me as much as issue 1 did. But it was a pretty good ending to the story. Like I said, I'm excited to see more of Gabby. Cliffhanger could have been a little bit better with the other clone. Kind of wish we learned a little bit more about Alchemax as the series was going on. But I give this 3.5 stars. Still think this is a good story, and excited to see where the next arc goes. That was number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Weirdworld issue 4. Now, this was a very touching issue because we see that Becca and I always forget her name, but the Ogadode, we're just gonna call her the wizard person, the wizard hunter. The wizard hunter and her both have lost people, and we see that they're having visions of the people they lost, and we see that they're a lot more similar than we thought. You know, they're not both wizard hunters, but they definitely have gone through stuff that could help each other heal. And we have this amazing splash page of them hugging in the end, where it's like, oh, you know, I understand what you went through. And this whole issue is like kind of seeing their past and seeing how related they are with, again, just some gorgeous artwork here. Really, really getting into the emotions of these two characters. Cliffhanger could have been a little better. We get to see the random kind of monster attacking them in the end, which I'll get you a picture of that. Also, what I think could have been better is the villain exposition scenes. I could kind of live without. But overall, the motion here, the artwork being so gorgeous, I give it 4 stars. Though it's a very solid story, and Weirdworld is a very underrated series. You should definitely pick it up if you're not. So Weirdworld issue 4 gets 4 stars. And that's number 6. Now we're moving on to number 5. And I will say my top 5 was really hard to pick this week. There's a lot of great books this week, so let's get into it. Number 5 was Spider-Man 2099 issue 8. Yeah, Spider-Man 2099 made it again, and here, what I like about this issue and what I've been liking about the past issues is that we dig deeper into the supporting cast, and I think that's really important for a series. And I'm learning about the supporting cast and caring about them, like the girl who's in the hospital that lost her girlfriend pretty much to being an Inhuman. She sees Tempest and calls Miguel right away and says, "Hey, I'm pretty sure that was your fiance." Miguel's shocked. She thinks she was dead. And finally, Tempest and Miguel come back together, and hopefully we'll get to see that relationship, even though the girlfriend's or the fiance's been in a coma this whole time. But I like it. The artwork's still a bit plain. I think that's more because of the coloring being a bit plain. But like I said, really like that the supporting characters are getting a lot of time to shine, and it was cool to see Tempest again. That's really where this volume has been building up to. So Spider-Man 2099 issue 8 is number 5, and that gets 4 stars. Now we're moving on to number 4, which is Miss Marvel issue 5. This was such a fun book. And this is where it gets to the really hard part, like what was number 1, what would be number 2, because these are all 4 of these books. In another week could have been pick of the week because they were so much fun. But with Miss Marvel, what I love, honestly, is the artwork and the small details they put here with the mindless clones, or mindless putties, we'll call them, just doing whatever with they're, again, mindless, and I love how the artwork shows that. And we see one of them just going across the hall with a fire extinguisher. That was so much fun. So the small details in the background just made me crack up. And this whole issue made me crack up because it's literally Jersey City being run down by Kamala clones, and them doing all these silly things as they do that, and Miss Marvel realizing, I can't keep doing this, I need to drop something, I'm working myself too thin here, and she's learning that, and her friends or family are kind of getting upset because of it. And like I said, she's learning about that, and in the end, we also get to see, it doesn't end here. It's not just like, oh, we defeated the clones, cool, because they did not defeat the clones fully here. And now we have the clones go to Kamala's brother's engagement party, and now there's just a huge Kamala who's gonna fight her family. This is just hilarious. I think with this type of story, it could have been so generic, something we've seen a billion times, but because it's Kamala's story, they make it fun, and it brings back to what I loved about Miss Marvel in the first place. I think Miss Marvel is kind of going to, not a dark place, but it's very, it hasn't, I feel like some of the magic was lost in a couple of those issues, especially the beginning of this volume. But it really came back with this issue where, yeah, it's not a big progression or shocking moment. It is more of this one-shot storyline, but it's fun. And I think it does build up this character, and when she has to make a decision. She really needs to show that there's too much on her plate. And maybe she could use some help from her friends. And I'm excited to see where they go with the story. But it progresses the civilian story really well with some tension between Bruno and Mike and Kamala. You know, her friends, Zoe being worried, and I forget the other friend's name. But them being worried, her family being worried. And I love the scene where she's drinking tea, one of the clones, and is turning into putty, and everyone is freaking out because of it. So, like I said, it's just a really fun issue, and I had a great time with this. So, Ms. Marvel issue 5 gets 4.5 stars, and that's number 4. Now, moving on to number 3, which is Mockingbird issue 1. Another great issue. This was so much fun. And now, I really enjoyed the 50th anniversary of Mockingbird. I'm glad to see her getting her own ongoing. Because I always say that Mockingbird doesn't get enough of a spotlight that she deserves. Finally getting her own ongoing. And with this, it's discovering more about how her body's being affected because of the super soldier serum. That is definitely a mouthful. But we see that she's starting to get like psychic powers. She's starting to become very sarcastic. She's seeing zombies. And she's trying to discover more about this. And she says these symptoms, these are not powers to her. You know, they're trying to heal me, but it's not working. It's kind of gotten already that she's seeing all these delusions. And I love how repetitive this book is. It's about going to the doctor's office all these different times, and it just becomes funnier and funnier that she's like wearing this, like, you know, black leather suit with thorns on top, or she has a dog next to her and she's like, don't ax. And the narration's just so funny and how sarcastic she is. And the story's interesting about these abilities. So I thought this was almost a perfect first issue. The structure was really well done. The artwork was well done, and I'm excited to read more Mockingbird. So Mockingbird issue 1 totally gets 4.5 stars. Pick this up if you haven't already. It's a really great issue. So now we're up to number 1 and 2. And I'll say both these issues were really hard to pick, because I love both these issues for their own reasons. They both got 5 stars. I thought they were both perfect issues. So number 2 was Guardians of the Galaxy issue 6. And as a Kitty fan, I love this issue because, I mean, there's so many reasons to love it, but also because I really like Peter and Kitty together. Something I never expected to say I would like, but yeah, I think Star-Lord and Kitty just work so well together. They have such good chemistry. And here it's about Star-Lord being like, I destroyed my Earth, what do? I destroyed my planet. And Kitty trying to make him feel better and say, no, it wasn't your fault, stop being down on the dumps. And half the issue is about her outfit, and how Peter's like, did you really have to wear that? Like, what is this all about? And it's more to make Peter happy and say, you know, I love Kitty's line saying, I've been a superhero since I've been 13, and I can never pick a good outfit. And that's more than saying, oh, a superhero can't pick her own outfit, because that is literally part of Kitty's history. Is if you've been following Kitty since Uncanny X-Men, since her first appearance in the 80s, she literally has gone through so many personas, so many costumes, and they all were pretty horrible. And that's always kind of been the journey of Kitty Pryde, trying to find her own identity. So to bring back up the horrible costume choices she makes was so much fun. Going back to the wonderful back and forth between Kitty and Peter. But what really got me, and again, what I also really love about Kitty's character is how she loves her Jewish heritage, and I love that about her, and I love, and there's this great monologue that I will never forget from AllNew X-Men, where she talks about she's Jewish, but she doesn't have a Jewish sounding name. She's a mutant, but she doesn't have a power that really could show that she's a mutant. She could live a normal life if she wanted to, but she's proud of all those things she is. And then this moment where she is on another kind of planet, another jail, and Kitty kind of just goes silent with Peter and says, hand me your gun. And Peter's like, what are you talking about? She's like, hand me your gun. He's like, Kitty, think about this. And she says, this is a concentration camp. And she screams it. And the artwork is so powerful in this issue. I felt it. I felt that unnervingness in that scene. And it's just so powerful because, again, if you know Kitty's history, that is, again, it was just such a powerful scene. And then Peter, handing Kitty the gun and her doing everything in her power to stop this. Now, the reason I feel like the issue I'm going to talk about next beat this issue, even though these are so powerful issues in their own way, is the cliffhanger I felt could have been a little stronger with Peter. It's like, oh, you're under arrest. Okay, how many times have we seen that ending? But everything else was so powerful of why I love Kitty as a character. And Brian Michael Bendis knows this character so well and why I love his writing for Kitty. So Guardians of the Galaxy issue 6 gets 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this issue as a Kitty fan. If you know our history, it's a really powerful issue. So Guardians of the Galaxy, and also as a Peter fan too, I think you'll really enjoy this. So Guardians of the Galaxy issue 6 gets 5 stars, and like I said, it was really hard to pick between this one and the next issue. But my number 1 issue is Spider-Gwen issue 6. The reason I picked this above Guardians of the Galaxy is I think the structure was a little bit better story-wise, and also I feel like this is an issue that's been building since literally the first appearance of Spider-Gwen. Because we finally get to see Harry and Gwen forgive each other, or at least Harry I would say they forgive each other. And Harry understands the wrong he did, and Gwen gives this whole beautiful speech to him, saying, you didn't do this for Peter. You didn't. You wanted power, and that's why you did it. You were jealous of Peter being able to have that power. And he felt weak when Peter died, and that's why he did the things he did. And then Gwen even says this really powerful moment that I don't think Peter mentions enough, is that the whole reason she was Spider-Gwen, or the whole reason she was Spider-Woman, was out of guilt. That's why she did it. She couldn't save Peter, and that's why she's doing this. And the way she said it, though, is just made me it reminded me of such a basic information of Spider-Man that I think we not tend to forget, but we don't see as often. And I love that how Gwen spelled it out here. Another powerful moment in this issue was the ending between her and her father. That's something that's been building up too since that first issue, where Gwen pulls off her mask and says, I'm Spider-Woman. And Captain Stacy not being able to really dissect that and being able to understand it. And now, we see Captain Stacy pull Gwen to the side and say, I don't totally understand why you're doing the things you do, but I accept it. You're my daughter. And finally, they're able to have this open dialogue about her being, Spider-Woman, of saying, oh yeah, I met Captain America, and then also Captain Stacy announcing that he won't be a police officer anymore. And Gwen says, why? And he says, because I want to be your dad. That's my job. And, this kind of reminds me of the relationship in Spider-Girl between May and her parents, where she is Spider-Girl and they know. And she could talk about, oh, I got a bruise, or, the hobgoblin attacked me. Not always, but a lot of times she could talk about that with her parents. And here I'm excited for Gwen to have those conversations with her dad and show that she could fully be Spider-Woman in front of him. And we see that in that end where she's up on the roof, jumps down, and says, hey, I met Captain America today. And hey, I time traveled I traveled to a different dimension. And the artwork is so strong in this issue too, really showing these great expressions and great facial expressions that you need with this issue. And also another progression in this issue is that Captain America is going to try to help Spider-Gwen with her PR a bit. A lot of society see her as the villain, and I think it's now going into maybe they'll see her as a hero very soon. So Spider-Gwen issue 6 gets 5 stars. I thought really this issue was built up since the first issue, and there's some really powerful moments here. And like I said, the structure was a little bit better for this issue, but both Guardians of the Galaxy and Spider-Gwen were great issues, but there are a lot of great issues this week. So Spider-Gwen issue 6 was my pick of the week. That was number 5. Let me know in the comments below what your pick of the week and your worst pick of the week was, and everything in between. This was Comic Uno and Comic Frontline. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And of course, next week, I will have Comic Uno episode 138. And I'll see you guys later.